Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome. Welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And we're so grateful to be back here with another episode of the Infinite Way. And it brings me great pleasure to introduce our guest, Jenny Mannion. Jenny healed herself in 3 weeks of 7 years of chronic disease. She ignited her passion to help others. She now is an author, speaker, intuitive healer, and mind body mentor who inspires people to create their life they desire. Jenny has seen clients heal from depression, cancer, MS, and various other challenges. Jenny has been on PBS's The Whitney Reynolds Show, as well as many podcasts. Jenny has recently been named the top mindfulness contributor on LinkedIn. She was published by Llewellyn in 2016, and in 2023 was involved in 3 books in the Common Sentience Series by Sacred Stories Publishing. The most recent is GodTalk by Neale Donald. I present to you Jenny Mannion. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me, Anolia. I'm so grateful to be here with you.
I'm so excited to be here with you and to learn more about you and to share your stories. And I wanted to start off with the fact that you talked about chronic illness and the fact that you went through 7 years of chronic illness and you healed yourself. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I had all these symptoms, was in chronic pain. And as you know, if you keep going to the doctor, you'll keep getting diagnoses, you'll keep getting medication suggestions. And I really did trust traditional medical professionals and didn't really understand that the power laid within me, and really just defaulted to the new diagnosis. And so many times we'll go on the internet and we'll get more information. Oh, this diagnosis means this, and this diagnosis means this limiting thing, and this symptom. And a good example was I was told I had a genetic blood disorder and factor V Leiden that would make me like 200 times more likely to get a blood clot. I manifested a blood clot in my leg within 3 weeks of hearing that and was in the hospital for 5 days. So I just followed these. Instead of following my spirit, I was very much following my body. And it's really challenging when your body is in pain. It's distracting. Waking up every day in pain. It was mostly in my legs, and I had been a dancer, which felt like extra torture. And we're not kind to ourselves when we're in pain. I was a young mom, so I was brutal with myself about the things that I couldn't do, the way I wasn't showing up for my family. And my self-talk was really atrocious at the time. And I was at the time, now I call myself a recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. So in hindsight, I can say those things definitely contributed to my illness and made it even harder. Interestingly enough, when I was in my illness, I wasn't kinder to myself. I was actually beating myself up even more. So I'd been diagnosed with chronic mono, fibromyalgia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, as well as factor V Leiden. And most days I felt like I couldn't walk. It was crawling down the stairs sometimes. It was, is it safe to drive my kids to school today? Am I going to be vomiting in pain? Am I going to pass out? Like, it was really, really challenging. And even at some point when I was like, okay, maybe traditional medicine isn't the answer, maybe I'll go to a naturopath, he had me on like 40 vitamins a day. And that didn't feel sustainable either, because these you could take with food, these you can't take after this. It was very challenging. And I went to a chiropractor. I was being adjusted 3 times a week, and everything would give a little bit of relief, but nothing would last. And I would never know how I was going to wake up. Most of the time I woke up in a lot of pain. And it really wasn't until there were a couple things that fell into place at the same time. One was I met a woman who did not know me as Sick Jenny, and it was almost like someone seeing me for the first time. And I'd really resisted pain pills because I was like, if I start taking pain pills in my 30s, what am I going to be like if they're saying this is forever?
Yeah.
But when I met her, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a quarter of the dosage so I can go for a walk with her. And on those walks in nature, being with a friend, a new friend, talking about being a young mom, like I refound who I was a little bit. I had lost myself in that illness. I'd become all those diagnoses. And I think it was that, as well as when I saw the movie The Secret, that was like the pivotal point of me being like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a psych major and I'm not watching how I'm speaking to myself. I'm not being nice to myself. So at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm going to cancel doctor appointments for now and just focus on how I'm treating myself, how I'm talking to myself, and really listen to myself and change that language. And I watched Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle, read Caroline Myss, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Like I was just reading all these inspirational materials and really surrounding myself with that and becoming mindful of how atrocious I had been to myself. Like, no wonder I was sick. I wasn't allowing for healthy cells to be created by repeating over and over how much pain I was in, how sick I was, what these prognoses look like. I even got one book that said to have a funeral for my old self because I would never be that old self. All of these limiting thoughts just really contributed to that limited state of being. And when I switched that and really focused all my energy on listening, which was atrocious, and changing it gently, like being, okay, I'm grateful for my pinky. That doesn't hurt. Really changing my focus of energy. Within 3 weeks, I was pain-free.
Wow. I want to reemphasize how serious means for mind, body, and spirit to be in alignment because, we forget that when our mind says pain, then we feel pain. When our mind says hunger, then we feel hunger. When our mind says, whatever that case is, then it physically manifests. That's part of our manifestation, right? And we don't look at it seriously. I completely understand what you're saying. I myself went through a major health scare. My lymphatic system was finally, after going to two neurologists and neurosurgeons, and then who didn't truly diagnose me, they just said that one lymphatic node was out of whack and they wanted to do surgery. But when I finally went to a Chinese medicine acupuncturist who took time and did a 25-page intake sheet and didn't give me a diagnosis in 5 minutes, and who spent time talking with me for 2 hours, that my anger for all of the time that I was angry while I was younger manifested into inflammation on the left side of my body, so much so that it was starting to show up in my lymphatic system. My complete lymphatic system was shutting down. And what I found for me was the fact that 3 things had to change: my mindset, my diet, and my self-discipline. Self-discipline in the respect that if I'm given the guidelines of what can put me on the right path, why can't I do it? What's wrong with doing it? If someone says drop the coffee and go, oh, I love coffee, I have to have my coffee, I'm too old to give up coffee. Well, really, it's not that you're too old to give up coffee. It's the fact that you're just basically saying, I'd rather die. You give up coffee, bring your body back in balance. Give up coffee, bring your body in balance. Bring your body in balance. Mm-hmm. Did you have a moment like that? Did you have like a moment where it was like, because for me, it was the exercise. There had to be food in my food, no more processed food. Mm-hmm. No more processed food. Mm-hmm. So there had to be food in my food. I needed to exercise. And I needed to basically get the right mindset to say, I will heal.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had a few moments. It was after the movie The Secret. I cried the first time I saw that. Like I felt such a
Okay.
release. And
Hmm.
there were two things that were I took away from that movie. The gratitude, how important gratitude was, because when we become ill or in situations that are challenges, we can become very ungrateful. We focus on the problem. We don't focus on all the beauty that is still around us. And the next was that our body's always recreating itself. So where we're focusing our attention, it just made sense that I'm creating healthy cells or I'm creating sick cells. And I'm informing with my thoughts and emotion what kind of
Yeah.
cells are being created. So those two things, I was like, whoa, like, okay, it just made so much sense. And then you go through all the emotions, like, why didn't a doctor tell me this? Like, why have I been suffering for 7 years? And just that thought that, you know what, I haven't tried this way. No one's ever suggested this way to me. I can just try this and see what works. And it was amazing to me. I didn't know I could heal myself in 3 weeks. I was told I'd probably be in a wheelchair within a year. I wasn't convinced I could heal myself. I just knew I hadn't tried this way and life could certainly look better. It couldn't hurt, with where it made sense. It made so much sense to me when I heard it. And then when I read Caroline Myss's book about the chakras, I was like, oh, Anatomy of the Spirit. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Of course, I have energy blockages in these certain chakras. Of course, I don't feel safe to walk on this planet as this perfectionist that is putting my standard is so far up that there's never any way I could do all those things that would make me feel comfortable in my own body. So really that self-love really was a huge, huge part of it for me. And not listening to the limits that I'd heard maybe from other people and other relationships, from whether it be from family or teachers or whatever it was, really like loving myself as is instead of listening to that. And then as parent, we grew up in an age where all the parenting books started to come out and you're judging and are you doing this as a parent? Are you doing that as a parent? And you're so judgmental. It's another thing that you're judging yourself on, these roles in your life. And just really letting go of a lot of that stuff, giving myself permission to just love myself as is and appreciate my body instead of telling my body it wasn't well every single day. So
And
things
what,
shift
oh no,
quickly.
go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
And what you're saying is really, we're alluding to it, but we're not calling it out. And I just want to call it out. You're talking about the power of your voice, the power
Yeah.
of our thoughts, the power of your voice, how it informs the body, how it impacts the body. We talk about mind, body, spirit, right? And we always like to put the mind and the body next to each other, mind, body, before we talk about spirit. Because what happens is that the ego thinks and it informs the body and the body. And then that spirit piece was after the fact. But for me, it was like I had to put spirit first. I had to change how the mind was framed.
Yeah.
And it's almost like wrap it in spirit
Yeah.
and inform that my voice is powerful, what I say is meaningful, and it has power. So say nothing but positive things because that's what's manifesting every time. When I speak, when I think, it's manifesting. So I want to switch gears on you a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, talk to us a little bit about your intuitive healing practice and walking the path of an intuitive.
Yeah, well, after healing, I was like, okay, I need to shout this from the rooftops. And how do I tell everyone they can heal themselves? And I started going into some of the support groups that I was a member of, and people weren't receptive. There are times when, we are sick for a reason. We are on our own life path. And I was like, well, how do I get this word out to people that are looking for it? So I started blogging. And I was like, that's great. That's great for my journey too, because I'll just learn all these new tools and then I'll be able to share them and be able to help myself too along this path. And on that path, I came across the first thing was reconnective healing and then Akashic record reading. And then the more I learned, the more I just wanted to learn. It's like, I think I remember declaring like, okay, I'm going to be an intuitive healer, and being like, oh, that's such a niche. And I'm like, whoa, there's like, hundreds of modalities and ways that can look. And for me, I'm a constant student. So I really just wanted to learn more and more. And the things that I learned were really things that resonated with me. If it resonated as truth with me, I went to the Bronx High School of Science. I was a little bit of a like, prove it to me kind of person. I was open, but I wanted that proof. And like when I heard about the Akashic records, I'm like, I don't even know if I believe in this. But there are people that are saying they had readings that are saying it's profound. So why not? When I had my own reading, it was undeniable the truth that came through. And that opened more doors. Everything you learn opens more doors. You're like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And the next like great healing journey of my life was when my mom passed almost 4 years ago. She was my best friend, and talked to her like 3 times a day. She was unconditional love for me. And it made me have to be that deeper version of self-love for myself, even a bigger cheerleader for myself, because she was my biggest cheerleader. And I'd had a lot of grief, and the only thing that kept coming to me was shamanism to heal that. And I had done shamanic journeys. So I studied shamanism for a year and a half. And actually, the first book I came across was Healing Grief Through Shamanism. We never heal grief, but we can transmute it a bit. And it helped me so much. So as an intuitive healing practitioner, I use everything that I've learned. And I think the biggest thing I do is show up with love for clients, unconditional love, non-judgment. We have all been through a time like no other. I don't have judgment for anybody. Really teaching people how to tap into their own voice, their own hearing from spirit, instead of hearing the past stories and traumas and relationships that might be informing them. And I love energy. I love chakras. I love anything kind of woo-woo, but I love the mind-body stuff too, that grounds it into, hey, these are the actions we can take. Like you were saying, it's multifaceted. No, we cannot be eating, fast food every day and expect to be at our highest vibration. We need to be able to really treat our body well. Getting rid of the processed food. I've been vegan for almost 2 years now, mostly vegan. Once in a while my body will crave something, and I will listen to that too. It's really that, can we listen to our bodies? Can we listen to spirit? Can we just turn off all the noise? Because there's so much noise now.
Noise.
And just
Absolutely.
be present. And nature's a big part of it too. I do believe those walks help me be open, for that movie, The Secret, to come in at that perfect time. I feel like in nature, you get so many of the answers too. And while the self-development work is very important, a lot of times I'll just tell a client, just get out in nature, just go for a walk, just, just be silent and go in the woods. You feel reborn in that moment.
A lot of times we have clients and we'll say, you're going to know, there's a knowing when that first spiritual encounter fills your heart, fills your soul, and you're just like, undeniably, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Undeniably, I know how it made me feel, how it made my senses see, touch, taste, feel, smell, everything about it. The encounter actually moved me and shifted me within. And it's something very hard to explain. Was there a time or a precipice in your life when that moment happened? What was it like?
There were a few moments in my life. It's interesting because I had a couple as a child, had a couple of those intuitive moments and moments that made me think, hey, there's more. But then I went through a teenager in New York City, was a club kid, like shut down that part of me for a while. There was a moment, actually a very intuitive moment at my dad's house. This one day, he knew not to come into my room before like 11 a.m. on the weekends. You would face the wrath of Jenny instead of like nice Jenny. And he came into my room at like 9 a.m. and he's like, Jen, I'm going to go down to the village to get a record that's only available now. Will you come with me? And I was, everything in me, my normal self would have said no, but I was like, yeah, Dad, I'll go with you. Give me a second. And something said, you have to go. And when we came back, his place was ransacked. And I was in a room where they would not have known, the people that broke in would not have known that I was there until they came in. So like little things like that, that like my intuition saved me that day, and then energetically, when I found the book Reconnective Healing, so when I was blogging, I would add things to my wish list, and my wish list was very long then. My Amazon wish list, it was when it first came out. And my dad for Mother's Day had gotten me a bunch of books, and one of them was Reconnective Healing. And when I held it in my hand, my body shook, and things started happening around me. Lights started turning on and off. My lamp was on when it wasn't plugged in. Like weird stuff started happening, and I started feeling energy through my body, and just knowing there was so much more. And when I first had my reconnective healing session on the table with someone, a practitioner, I felt things that I had never felt before. I felt.
Is reconnective healing, just so that we understand?
It's an energetic healing modality where it is really about reconnecting us to our blueprint, to that, to our infinite potential. So the first time I was in session, I felt something like go like that. And I asked the practitioner, she's like, oh, I call those angel kisses, and energy through my body, and was like, whoa. And the first time I went to the reconnective seminar to be a practitioner, the energy in the room was palpable, and to see people have healings on massage tables and these experiences, there's no denying after that. There was no denying. And even it was funny because my husband at the time was a skeptic, and that day you're supposed to go home and practice. And he was on I was like, oh, let me practice on you. And he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll lay down, whatever. And he started laughing because he couldn't believe he heard his mom that had passed talk to him. And he felt energy in a way he hadn't felt before. So like so many things at that point, I'd say that taking that seminar and reading that book opened up a whole new doorway for me, which, then the next doorway opens and the next doorway opens, but that was the first one for me. But whatever it is, however it gets you to connect is amazing. And it's life-changing because you can't go back after that.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And that's amazing that your heart was that open, because most people go to fear. They go to fear and they're like, oh my God, this has happened. No, I don't believe it happened. That just couldn't have happened. No way did that happen. And they go to fear, and then they tell themselves a different story versus like it's undeniable, and then they hide from it.
Yeah.
So what would you say to those people? Because I know that you're absolutely right in experiencing for me, it would be, I'm walking down my hallway and the smoke alarm would go beep, beep every time I walk by it. And then I'd look and I'm like, I took the battery out. I took the battery completely out. And then the smoke alarm went beep, beep again with the battery out.
Wow.
I would drop something and I'd go to pick it up and it wasn't there. And then I'd stand up and it's like, there's no way, I just dropped this in my hands. And then I go down and I look and it's there. Or I trip as if somebody or something tripped me, and I'm walking down the hallway in my home. So in that respect, again, unseen, being seen, being felt, being acknowledged. And for me, it would just be like, I'd start talking. It's just like, can you not trip me? Okay, I understand. I get it. I see you. I feel you. Okay, I acknowledge. What do you want?
It is. It's challenging. Some people do go to fear, and we've been programmed to go to fear. Look at all the horror movies and the things we're told and programmed that things are evil, and I just don't believe that. You know, I mean, we all know people that have passed that are beautiful. We're beautiful human beings. Like, I don't believe that how could you believe that every spirit, that'd be like saying every human was evil? You know, I mean, I do believe that there are not so happy spirits too, but I don't walk in fear. And I think that that is too, if you're walking in fear, you're going to be attracting more of that, more to be fearful of.
Yes, yes,
So to know
yes.
we're protected, of course we're protected. You know, of course we have, you know, guides, teachers, angels. Like, it's not just us. We're not alone. And I think that's a big thing to acknowledge too, because if you feel alone, yeah, you might feel very attacked if you feel another energy come in. But just knowing we're, you know, we're okay, you know, and getting curious more than fearful. Like, I'm always like, ooh, show me more. I want to know more. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
like, being playful with it just adds to the energy of excitement. And ooh, who knows what's, you know a fraction of what there is to know. And I find that so exciting that I just
Mhm.
want to learn more, and I just want to invite in more experiences. I love it, you know, and yeah, I mean, I'd encourage people to just maybe repeat an affirmation to themselves, like, I am safe. You know, really, again, our voice is so important, what we tell ourselves. If you're reacting from fear, look at that. Did you read a scary book? Did you see a scary movie? What is informing that fear?
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say, demand protection. I am
Yeah.
protected. We are, as much as our imaginations are, because we're not working in the physical world. We're we're acting in behalf of the spiritual world, and the spiritual world don't engage the same rules. So when you say, I am protected by the light, I'm protected by the light,
Yep.
you know. Um, it's almost like the lucid dreaming and participating in your dream and then protecting yourself in your dream, that it still holds. Just it's like engaging your guides and basically saying, nothing is allowed to engage me unless it's for my highest and greatest goods. We forget about these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Only beings of light can be around me. Only, you know, I only allow light to come in. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so funny. I used to say this prayer whenever I felt vulnerable, and it was like, angels bless and angels keep, angels guard me while I sleep. Bless
Beautiful.
my heart, bless my home, guide and guard my spirit as I roam, and just basically it was just like a little mantra prayer that just says, while I rest, guard me and guide me and bless me and hold me in a
Beautiful.
safekeeping. Yeah, yeah. So there are people who are awakening to consciousness and they don't know what to do. And they're like on this precipice of, I know things, but I don't know things. As a practitioner of energy, and I'm an energy practitioner along with you, alongside, but I love asking. What would you share with them in terms of the fact that we have so many modalities presented to us and so many different things, and what happens is that I find that a lot of practitioners are scattered, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then guidelines are good, but what
Mhm.
would you tell them from a heartfelt point of view outside of the guidelines?
So I was like I said, recovering perfectionist, rule follower. And so when I started to learn these modalities, I was very much like, oh, I have to do them this way, or oh, they need to be done that way. And it really took me a while to give myself permission to, they're all doing the same thing. They're all about connecting to our heart and really allowing in guidance and allowing in those quiet moments, because we do know we do have access to infinite wisdom and infinite protection and infinite guidance. So really, what gets you to that space, and it doesn't always have to be a healing energy modality. Creativity, we know, does that. You and I both love writing and dance. that can inspire that heartfelt
Yeah.
connection. What is it that really lights you up? Because that's when you're connecting to your spirit. That's when you're connecting to that unconditional love. And a lot of people get so into the grind of doing things that, oh, I don't have time for art anymore. Oh, I don't have time to sing anymore. And that's usually one of the first things they let go of, but it's the very thing that's going to connect them back to
Yeah.
themselves. So what does that for you? That would be my question is, yeah, what does that for you? I mean, nature always does that for me too, but what does that for you? What lights you up and makes you really not even hear the noise if there's noise around, but really go within and just connect on a deeper level?
Yeah. And then I would also say that trusting oneself and
Yeah.
trusting your intuition, because it's like you have a little voice speaking to you, and somebody will say, share this, this, and this with that person. And you go like, I can't just talk to somebody strange. I feel funny if I talk to somebody strange. I'm not going to say anything. But it might have been at that crucial moment and that crucial point when that's exactly what they needed to hear. And God spoke to you and basically said, do this, and so that you could shift the direction that that person does. We ask for miracles, we ask for assistance, we ask for alignment, we ask for all these different things, but we forget that it comes through our relationships, it comes through people, it comes through circumstances, and circumstances that change. And who changes the circumstances? But people do. So in the morning, a person across town was told, go right instead of going left, and they go right. And all of this was to block you as you're doing your daily routine so that you don't get into an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And because they were there and they went right when they usually go left, and then the car didn't start and blah, 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 and they held up traffic and blah, blah, blah. And that hold up saved you in some respect, or
Yeah.
delivered to you something else, another person who was supposed to intervene and speak with you that you
Right.
needed to meet or know or hear in some respect. All of these things conspire to assist you. But how does that work? Well, again, it happens through people, it happens through circumstances. And we ask for these things and we want to invite these things, but then we shut down the
Mhm.
very thing that we're asking for by the way our emotions are,
Mhm.
because I feel, and this is my personal belief, that emotions are a distraction from us walking the path a
Mhm.
lot of times. If I'm going through emotional baggage, trauma, issues, moods, then I'm not aware of what my situation and my circumstances are. And if I'm
Right.
not aware of the situation and my circumstances, then when that door opens for me, that God went through everything to conspire to get that door to open so that I'd recognize it, I'm too busy in my mood or drama or depressed or whatever the case may be to acknowledge that the door is open,
Yeah.
and I miss it. And then we go, oh God, please, please, I need this. But you were going through your mood and you were going through your issues when they opened the door, and you didn't recognize it,
Mhm.
and you lost it. You lost the very moment of it that you
Mhm.
had asked. So these things are important. They're really, really important. And I would say to those who are looking and who are working that it's wonderful to learn modalities, but ultimately modalities are the guidelines.
Yeah.
And the guidelines are taught to us so that we know how to engage, what to engage, and what to look for. But the bottom line is once you know it, then you trust yourself. You trust your heart. You trust that little voice inside that says, okay, you usually do this, but I want you to do that now,
Mhm.
just in this instance. And then you do that, and that works,
Yeah.
and that helps, and that assists. So, what would be the ultimate scenario for you when trusting your heart and trusting your gut just aligned everything just right for you that you were looking for?
Yeah. Well, I do feel it's trusting, but I'm big on intention too, and telling the universe what I want. I would say I manifested my partner now of almost 10 years, and it has been the best relationship of my life. And think there's a few things. There's the self-love and self-worth that's important, like knowing, again, not being our past traumas, not being so caught up in those emotions that we feel not worthy. We can't attract those things to us. But I got very clear on my list. I mean, my friends kind of laughed at me because my list was like, he is kind, he is generous, he is sweet, like it was long, it was very long. And yeah, 2 pages single spaced. And my friends were like, yeah, right. And when this guy walked in my life, it was interesting because I even faced that, like, almost that self-doubt again. Like, and I went to look at the list. I was like, okay, he's everything on the list. Okay. And it just felt almost daunting. Like, wow, I manifested this man to
Yeah.
walk, and it's almost 10 years later. It's so beautiful. It's still unfolding into like layers of even more beautiful. And so I think that, and I've used that list method a lot of times to manifest the house that we're in now, to manifest a book deal. Like, really, like when we feel we're worthy of something. And I mean, that list I felt was an act of self-love. Like, yeah, I deserve this, yeah, I've been to hell and back. Yeah, I deserve this. Why not? And when I have my clients write that list, I think it's also, it's a testament to how much work they've done, that they can say, yes, this is what I want, this is what I'm calling in, and really own that. Instead of, we all know people that repeat the same pattern in relationships or in jobs, whatever it is, whether it's friendships or intimate relationships, jobs, same patterns. But really, that owning, and that's such a beautiful gift. When that gift arrives, it almost seems, I remember when my partner and I moved into this house, I walked around like, I was like, is this real? Like, I feel like I'm in a fairy tale land. Like, I met you and we called this in. Like, but I do feel like that's how life is supposed to be lived a lot of the time. But people do get stuck in the emotions and the trauma and the stories and the limiting beliefs, and they don't allow that flow and that beauty to come in. But I do feel like it's there, it's waiting for us. But we have to do a little bit of the work, which is not always pretty, as we know. Healing
Yes.
is not always pretty. This stuff.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. I so agree with everything that you said. It has to be intentional. Yeah, the love has to be there, and the trust has to be there. And I would add one other thing: the patience,
Yeah.
because we are living in an instant gratification world. And in that instant gratification, we think that if it doesn't happen in a day, 2 days, or a week, then our prayers aren't being heard, our needs aren't being met, or what am I going to do and how am I going to do it? And it's hard. It's hard to hold space for yourself to basically say, here's my intention, here's my want, here's my need, and I don't care how long it takes to get it, but I'm holding that vision in front of myself so that my life is a walk to that vision at all
Yeah, I love that, Nolan. That's so powerful, because patience is one of my shadows, honestly. So it was something that I did have to learn. And it wasn't until I had really let go. Like, when I met my partner, I had said, okay, I'm writing my book. I don't want this guy to come in right now. I want, just someone fun to go hiking with or whatever. It wasn't until I completely let go that he
Yeah.
walked.
Wow. Will you please share with us a little bit about your books?
Sure. Yeah. Llewellyn, I was published by Llewellyn in 2016, A Short Path to Change, 30 Ways to Transform Your Life. Very much a lot of the things that we were talking about. The first part, it's 4 parts. The first part's really about getting rid of some of that stuff, forgiveness and self-forgiveness. Really, what do we need to get rid of? The clutter in our life, really getting rid of stuff. Second part's about the energy body. So the chakras, I feel, are so important, because we need to kind of address where that trauma might be and love that part of ourselves. The third part's about the present moment. So feeling energy, feeling gratitude, getting into the present moment and being mindful. And the fourth part's really about how we can keep moving forward when self-sabotage pops up, and how to set intentions and how to keep moving forward. So yeah, so that was in 2016. And then this past year, I was part of 3 books in the Common Sentience series, which is beautiful because that book's based, all those books are in 3 sections. So the first part, so say I'm in Signs, Akasha, and GodTalk. The first part is that author, the main author, talking about their experience. The second part's a bunch of stories relating to that experience. And the third part is that the main author talking to people about how they can have that experience. So with the Akashic records, how they can have that Akashic experience, and signs, how they can feel signs, and God talk, how you can communicate with God and guidance. So such a beautiful series. And I was really, really grateful to be a part of all 3 of those.
It's wonderful. So I know that we're coming up on an hour and we could keep talking and talking.
Yeah, I could talk to you forever.
Will you share one last thing of wisdom that you would want people to know about your practice, about you, about walking the path, anything you want to share?
I just want to share that I know that the world can seem really dense and challenging, but these days in particular, but just know that we're not limited. I love that your show is, the infinite way, because we always do have that infinite potential. It does come with that self-love and self-worth, not looking outside us for the answers, but really looking inside and connecting with that guidance that's always there. And just knowing that we can create a heaven on earth within ourselves. Like, that is possible. Don't look at the outside world and say that has to be your existence, because you can create a heaven on earth, and it begins with you. There's a ripple effect. You create the best version of yourself, your family and the people around you become happier. So really it just begins within, and just loving yourself enough to take those steps every day.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And as a practitioner, Jenny, let people know what you do. Let people know how they can get in contact with you directly and what social media is you're on.
Sure. I do my signature sessions now are soul harmony sessions, where we'll meet for an hour and we'll talk for 20 minutes. 30 minutes, I'll lead you through a little guided energy session, but also you get to tap into your guidance and feel your guides during that session. And the last 10 minutes we process. I do Akashic record readings where I'll do clearings with your guides and my guides. I also take people to the Akashic records so they can gain their own access, which is awesome. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, LinkedIn, very connected on LinkedIn. I do answer a lot of questions on there on mindfulness, and yeah, would welcome connecting.
Absolutely. And tell them where that they can get your books.
Anywhere. You can get it at the stores, you can get it at Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. It's a short path to change, or if you just type in Jenny Mannion or the Common Sentience Series, they are available all over.
Excellent, excellent. And I will also grab that information for you so that it'll be down in the information and description box on our YouTube feed and on our live feed. So Jenny, thank you so, so much for joining us here in the Infinite Way. And yes, I want to say thank you, but I also want you to give our audience one last tip.
Just be kind to yourself. These are intense times, but they're such beautiful times too. Really do what you love and reach out to someone else too. Have fun. That is my biggest message. Have some fun.
Oh, so great for you to be here on the show. Thank you so much. And that's Jenny Mannion. Her information will be in the description box. This has been another episode of The Infinite Way. If you like what you saw, please like us. Please share everywhere. And, you know, we are grateful to have people like Jenny on our show. She has a lot to offer, a lot to share. So do look her up. And thank you. Thank you for joining us on The Infinite Way. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.